Good morning, Roll Gang. It is time for the first of infinitely many, I hope, 9 a.m. weekday wake and bakes. I am all discombobulated this morning. Still a touch bit under the weather, feeling a lot better though. Got my color back. My lips are still chapped to shit, but pushing on forward with a brand new chapter of Weekday Wake and Bakes. Today is partial funeral and partial pushing forward with the brand new pivot of the show. We are going to shout out everybody who made it at 8 a.m., showing up at the crack of dawn with your processor sky for the 8 a.m. episodes of the Weekday Wake and Bake, and pivot forward in the first ever 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern episode of the Weekday Wake and Bake. I am your host, Processor Sky, here at the brand new time slot, 9 a.m. Pacific, with another episode of the show. It is Fuck Yeah Friday, ladies and gentlemen. Everything is changing, and at the same time, nothing at all. Same host, same Fuck Yeah Friday, same Weekday Wake and Bake, because after all, we have awoke. So now we are blessed to have a smoke. The only thing that's going to change, Roll Gang, is we're moving an hour back from 8 a.m. Pacific every weekday morning for 195 days, weekdays in a row, pivoting forward for the next 195 and beyond at 9 a.m. Pacific time. The reason for this, Roll Gang, is I am not sustainably waking up at the time I need to prepare for the show, for an 8 a.m. show, after my midnight shift. So I work Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I work Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday from 4 p.m. to like 12:30. And I literally can come home without having a smoke, and maybe would be asleep by 1 in the morning, but I'm going to pivot so I can at least burn one and sleep until, somewhere around like 8 in the morning. I'm going to wake up at 8 a.m. Pacific time instead of starting the show, prep for the show, and connect with the guest at any given morning with the guest. I haven't even been able to do guests the past couple of weeks because of how distraught I've been with the new schedule, but 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern is how we're pushing forward. But today is a little bit of a funeral, Roll Gang. Rest in peace to the 8 a.m. starting time slot for the Weekday Wake and Bake. So many people have woke up at the crack of dawn and sacrificed their early morning ritual to come on the show. So I want to give a quick shout out to the whopping 41 guests that have come on the show at 8 a.m. in the morning to start a Weekday Wake and Bake with your processor. It is an absolute bomb waiting to happen, this list of guests. So before I get on into it, I'm going to roll up some of this Oreos by Leaf and Vine. Shout out Planet 13 Company for making some awesome flour. I'm going to roll this baby up while giving a shout out to the sponsors of the show, because we got the same fucking sponsors as before, Roll Gang. Coming in first, literally first ever cannabis college and the Harvard of the cannabis plant, cannabis education, Oaksterdam University, the place to go to claim your stake in this budding industry. Oaksterdam is where you go to learn about this amazing plant, how to grow it, how to sell it, how to create a company, learn about demand. But not only that, but sublime networking, meeting some of the most knowledgeable minds of the industry. I mean, I learned a class from the Grow God himself, the man who wrote my book. Oh my God, I'm blanking on his name right now because Ed Rosenthal. You can forget anybody's name. That proves it. He's literally one of my biggest role models. One of the best cannabis growers in the history of mankind since we've been growing this unbelievable plant. So major shout out to Oaksterdam University. Use promo code Rolling Spoon to get 10% off your tuition at Cannabis College and learn about this budding industry. And speaking of the Rolling Spoon Cannabis Multi-Tool, every weekday morning at 8 a.m. for the past 195 days, not including today's 9 a.m. episode, we have been rolling dimes with the Rolling Spoon Cannabis Multi-Tool, and that shit is not going to stop. We are just going to have to do it at 9 a.m. As you can see me use my rolling spoon to meticulously procure my cannabis throughout my paper so that I can create an even distribution. Because after all, an even distribution means an even burn, and we don't want any runs, especially during the show. Like, we cannot afford for this baby to burn bad. That would be super embarrassing for me and for the Rolling Spoon. So we have to roll a dime every time for the Roll Gangsters tuning in on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Yo, I appreciate everybody tuning in this morning. Brand spanking new time slot for this Fuck Yeah Friday episode. Super excited to just give a quick homage to all of the guests that have come on at the 8 a.m. time slot, sacrificing their whole morning ritual, coming on, having a coffee from Dutch Bros with your Processor Sky, and just chopping it up about some cannabis content. Boom. A spoon rolled, dime every time, as they say, Roll Gang. Let me just use my spoon to poke down the top here right quick. Boom. Poker side to tap it in. And now she's ready to spark, honestly. Let's just spark that excess paper off and talk about these legendary co-hosts that have joined the show. I'm going to try, there's no way I can give everybody the full respect they deserve. Each one of these individuals is completely elite in their given category. It's been absolutely humbling to have such an unbelievably talented group of individuals come and wake and bake, smoke some morning herb with me. We all wake and bake every morning. It's just a matter of doing it together, Roll Gang. I hope you guys are sparked up on this beautiful Friday morning here in Las Vegas, Nevada, or whenever you are consuming this show. It's a great time every weekday morning live here, but also after the fact. Shout out to everybody tuning in after the show is posted. Let's get on into this episode. So this is the first of hopefully infinitely many weekday Wake and Bake episodes starting at 9 a.m. But we have to give remembrance and proper gratitude to all of the 8 a.m. episodes, all 195 of them, with 41 amazing co-hosts, starting with the one who started it all with me, the OG Roll Gang Rach. I really don't know if the weekday Wake and Bake would be a thing without you, Rach. Just so appreciative for such an amazing ball of energy and a beautiful human being, starting this idea with me and, passing on the torch as she moved back to Pennsylvania to pursue her own path, if you will. I hope that we have the amazing opportunity to reconnect again, Rach. Started this amazing project, the weekday Wake and Bake with me, which has grown into completely a mind of its own. Second, another OG, Jodeci, the honey with the honey. One of the best smiles, one of the morning brights. Absolutely respect and love Jodeci, honey with the honey. The second guest on the Weekday Wake and Bake. The third guest is actually a legendary guest, Kenny Leapier, the one who made these amazing rolling trays that we use every weekday morning as well. They have been on 195 episodes. Shout out Kenny, KML Art, for hooking up the mad rolling trays, being so talented and coming on the show. Next up, we have a longtime friend of the show, the fourth guest, and one of the most recent as well, the beautiful Ariana Janae, our friend of the show, model, absolutely stunning, amazing woman power, entrepreneur, influencer, lifestyle icon, global fashion model, Ariana Janae, the amazing. And next we have Stony Sony, aka Allison from Fumer, one of the greatest to come on the show, an absolute mass ball of energy. She is just such a great friend, and so thankful she came on the show. The next legend to pop on the show, Sky the Stoner, my favorite cannabis influencer. I will die on Sky the Stoner's hill. Nobody will dethrone her. She is the queen of cannabis influencing, in my opinion. If you guys don't absorb her cannabis content, I don't know what the fuck you're doing. Missing out. Sky the Stoner, at Sky the Stoner on Instagram, an absolute legend. And for that episode, she was joined by another great friend of hers, a great friend of mine, holding it down, the OG, the gangsta Ty Hudson. Dollar Sign herself. She's an amazing, she's not currently in the industry, I don't think, but, a cannabis influencing behind the scenes, taking a ton of amazing pictures, been in a ton of Rolling Spoon content. Great friend of the show, Ty Hudson. Major shout out. Next up, we got the Juicy Accounts guy himself, Jordan Carone. Really got to have Jordan back on the show to talk about his new projects with Juicy. One of the funniest dudes in the history of the show. I absolutely love seshing with the boy Jordan. The guy that he makes me adventure. You know what I mean? He's super outgoing and adventurous, and I appreciate not only his impact on the show, but his impact on me. Shout out Jordan Carone. Next up, we got the queen of Motivational Monday herself, Miss Darlene Weed Witch Mason. She, an absolute light. There's no other way to describe her. So motivational and uplifting. One of my favorite people in the industry here. A sales goddess, Darlene. You know how we flow. Next up, shout out the boy, QVB Joe. Quality Vegas Bud Joe. It's been a hot minute since I seen you, my guy, but an absolute grow god and genius. One of the best grow philosophies. So humbling to have a bunch of episodes with the grow god himself, Quality Vegas Bud Joe. Major shout out. Next up, we got Cannabis Rocky of the High Bud Tenders podcast. Legendary bud tender and podcasting host. The High Bud Tenders podcast is the parent podcast of the Weekday Wake and Bake. Would not have done this show without the influence of the High Bud Tenders podcast. All the credit in the world to Rocky and Jarrell. Both have individually come on the Weekday Wake and Bake. I'm still trying to get them both. Shout out Jarrell to both absolute specimens here in the industry. Jarrell and I are both on Team Planet now that I work for Medicine. Team MM Development, holding it down. Jarrell and Cannabis Rocky of the High Bud Tenders podcast. Next up, we have the beautiful Chelsea Adriana Hendricks. You know, the absolute specimen of Camp Cannabis. One of my favorite personalities in the industry here. Huge shout out the beautiful Chelsea Hendricks for coming on the show. Great friend of the show. Next up, probably, honestly, you know, we've had incredible amount of legends on this show. But per your processor, my queen, you know, I would do anything for this next co-host, Tina Ullman, the president of the Chamber of Cannabis and one of the best role models I've ever met. An absolute icon, and I just can't even express my appreciation to Tina enough for coming on the show semi-regularly. I have nothing but love for the GOAT, Tina Ullman. Cannot see what is in store for such an amazing individual. Someone I truly look up to so much. Woo! Guys, that was 12. I'm sorry, but I kind of got to go a little bit faster. Shout out to everybody who came through. I don't want to short anybody. That's the thing, but we're 12 through. I have to do 41 shout outs on this episode. Everybody showing up at 8 a.m. So fucking humbling to have such an elite list of individuals that came on the show. The next two, my parents, Dana and Izzy Sky, legends. I have nothing else to say. You know, two of the best, you know, the number 1 and 2 influencers in my life. You know, they're tied for number 1. I cannot even say, well, I do not know what I would be without my parents, Dana and Izzy Sky. Just absolutely elite parents. Next, Baked Old Lady's Pearl. An amazing substance of energy, just incredible source of energy. That was the word I was looking for. Baked Old Lady's Pearl is a powerful woman with a powerful mission. Unbelievably honored to have her on the show. Next up, Hadina Felice. Oh, the beautiful. One of my favorite people. Such a ball of charisma and so journeyful, has been to all 50 states. Not many people I respect more in the industry. Queen of cannabis compliance, Hadina. Major shout out. I love you, Hadina. Huge friend of the show. Next up, the bud tender god himself, Jason of the Mojave of Canistars Dispensary over by Pawn Stars. If you're trying to get right, the bud tender goat, Jason of the Mojave, will get you there. And speaking of goats, we got one of the best brand reps in the history of the best cart brand, Rove. You know, Journey of Spark the Journey. She's not only an amazing brand rep for Rove, a legendary company, but an entrepreneur and an artist. Spark the Journey, her company makes the greatest dab medallions. You know, go and grab yours today at Spark the Journey. Shout outs, Journey. Spark the Journey. Next up, we got Marnie Montroy and her best friend Leilani Joy Coates. You know, two of the absolute most powerful women in the industry. That episode was so raw and powerful, it left me shaking. You guys have got to see that one. Marnie Montroy and Leilani Coates, Culture and Cannabis co-founder Leilani, coming on the show. An absolute banger with two of the most powerful industry women here. And then the talented, the gorgeous Janice Shania of Janice Shania Yoga. An incredible source of talent and passion. One of the most flexible individuals, both, you know, bodily and flexible just personally. You know, go with the flow mentality. An absolute icon here in Las Vegas. See her doing her thing at the Chamber of Cannabis event, contorting her body. Made my favorite rolling video. My favorite rolling video to date, when she was doing the acrobatics while I was rolling on top of her hands and feet. an absolute icon, Janice Shania. Next up, my longest friend of the history of the show, for sure, Megan McEldowney. I mean, one of the first individuals I ever seshed with, let alone wake and bake with. Shout out Megan Mac out in Florida, holding it down. I cannot wait to sesh with you again soon, Meg. Next up, the legend, my gram, Roz Sky. I did like a couple episodes with my grandma. How fucking legendary is that? The queen of the joint highway journey, the one who brought me from the East Coast to the West Coast for the very first time. You know, it was just me and Graham in the car. She was reading a book. I was smoking my joints. That's why we call it the joint highway journey. Just her and I, you know, the classic joint, Grammy and Sammy, going cross country. Didn't know I'd be staying here for so long. I've been here for like close to 6 years now on the West Coast. But huge shout out Grammy Roz Sky for coming on the Wake and Bake. Next up, the legendary bud tender, Andy D, aka Polly Porcelain. Yo, the baddest of the bad, an absolute slayer. I absolutely love them. One of my favorite co-hosts to come on the show. They are an absolute icon here in Vegas cannabis, an absolute icon in the drag world. Polly Porcelain, the famous, the beautiful. Absolutely love you, Andy. Shout out. And next up, Hunter Osmolinski. I mean, probably the most famous. This dude is going to be an... I am so glad to have had Hunter on the show when I did, because I have no faith in anybody more than Hunter to just go off with their career. The best energy, the funniest dude, you know, absolute sex icon, if I may say so myself, a sex symbol, you know, shout out Hunter Osmolinski. Next up, the great entrepreneur and inventor of cross-country wellness, his baby, Jaybird, Jordan, absolute icon as a, yo, all these buzzwords I keep using, I can't slight any of them. If Jaybird isn't a fucking icon, then nobody is. You know what I mean? I'm watering it down, but it can't be. Shout out Jaybird, an absolute icon in every sense of the word. Adventurous, adaptable. He's doing some kind of challenge. I keep in great touch with Jaybird. He takes great care of his body. And another one who takes such great care of his body, hormone replacement therapy, culture and cannabis king, you know, influencer icon, party thrower phenomenon, J.C. Coates, the president, co-founder, husband of Leilani Joy Coates, you know, probably the biggest power couple in the entire industry. J.C. and Leilani, can't even express my appreciation and love for them enough. Next up, 29, Joe Canna, my absolute bro. You know, I'm so much in common with Joe Canna, Joe Bancheri, the boy behind the sales of the amazing Groon edibles. Those Groon pearls are my favorite edibles that I sell over at Medicine. Come and snag some from me this week. They're absolutely amazing. Joe Canna, you know, out in nature with the boy. You know, I have some of my favorite memories in Las Vegas with the boy. On the tennis court, too. We just have so much in common. East Coast dude. Love Joe Canna. Yo, that is 30. You know, that is 30 guests. I have 10 more. I have to take a quick rip of this joint to cool off. Shout out Amsterdam University and the Rolling Spoon Cannabis Multi-Tool. Here, I got this Reefer Ranger Rolling Spoon, baby. That one's sexy. This episode is unreal, Roll Gang. Next up, the beautiful Astrid of Fleur Brands, Nevada. the absolute cleanest grown. It is no-till. I've been to multiple times to the Fleur cultivation facility. Shout out Evergreen Organics, the bread and literal butter of the industry, using pure, natural, I can't say organic. It's clean green certified plant matter for their actual canna butter. It's the realest of the real, the cleanest of the clean. Shout out the beautiful Astrid for coming onto the show and representing such an amazing brand. I love Astrid. She is an awesome source of energy. Came on the show. So thankful she shared it with us. The best cook in the history of the show, we actually switched it around. It was not the Weekday Wake and Bake. It was the Weekday Bake and Wake with Chef Stacy Dugan, absolutely legendary chef here in Las Vegas, the vegan goddess, Chef Stacy herself. So appreciative she came on the show, sharing some of her philosophies. Next up, the queen of sales, the director of brands at SIP, Bri Garcia, the face of the franchise, QB1 for the most satisfying and popular edible in Las Vegas. Those SIP elixirs are perfect. They hit amazing every time. Just make sure you dose right, because they are stout. They are effective. Bri Garcia with the absolute banger of an episode. She was surprisingly nervous because she came on and she was one of the crispiest entertainers to ever have come on the show. Just great charisma, iconic smile, one of my favorite co-hosts ever on the show. Legendary, absolute legend. The next show was my boys, my partners in crime, in blood, sweat, and tears, in national championship ownage. What's the word? Like, we own a natty together. The boys, Teo and Tony, the lefties. They're both lefty. They're both unbelievable at tennis, and we won a national championship together. One of my favorite episodes. If you guys saw the episode, it was a good time. Me and the boys just chopping it up. I smoked some weed. They're not even stoners that much. They smoke a little here and there. Didn't want to get them too ripped for the show, so we just chopped it up and had a good time. It was awesome to have the national champions, Tony and Teo, on the show. And then the amazing, talented, beastly Danny B, the vice president, co-founder of the Chamber of Cannabis. You name it, Danny B does it. If she sets her mind to it, she actually checks it off. Like, I've never met anybody who's more self-motivated and just, one of my absolute role models here in the industry. I have loved to get so tight with Danny B, living here. Shout out the queen, Danny B. Next up, we got Nicole Buffong, one of the most unbelievable missions in the entire industry. She is an absolute statement in the making. Everything she stands for, I stand for too. Supportive of everything she does. So thankful she came to represent Purple Plant Magic, M4MM, the Chamber of Cannabis, and so many more on my show. And it was such an honor to wake and bake with the great Nicole Buffong. And then, last but certainly not least, the legendary Cultivate episode. Shout out Angie, the amazing, the real-life gangster Angie. One of my favorite people to hang around. Cannabis Kyle, the grandfather of the burger. I got the burger in the garage right now. Shh, the grandfather, the one who bestowed the burger upon me. Cannabis Kyle, shout out. Shout out Brandon and Francis, the other boys of the Cultivate squad. I absolutely love you guys. I can't express it enough. Such an honor to have the first 5 wide, high 5 episode of the Weekday Wake and Bake with the Cultivate Squad. This is like an insane, humbling moment, Roll Gang. Pivoting forward, if the 9 a.m. episodes can have half the success of the 8 a.m. episodes, so honored to have such an unbelievable list of individuals. Cannot even express it enough. So much passion and honor and energy and stonerisms coming on the show. It is so amazing to be a part of such a tight-knit and elite industry. Everybody that's come on the show, so supportive of me, and I promise I am so devoted and supportive back. I have nothing but respect for every single person on this list. 100% elite, 100% iconic. All those words, legendary, buzzwords. We had 41 legends on the show. And that's not even including me, you know. I'm probably the worst on this list, you know. I'm sorry you guys got to put up with me. But I promise I'll connect you with the elites that have been on the Weekday Wake and Bake. I am kind of spent. Like, it is insane how much, you know, energy I just popped off, you know, just driven by the humbling experience of having such a legendary list of co-hosts on the Wake and Bake with me. And, you know, this pivot moving forward, changing the time and everything, it's for the best, Roll Gang. It's a lot more sustainable for my new work schedule. And hopefully all of these people will make their returns on, because I can't even express my love and appreciation enough. Shout out to all 41 of them, but even more important than that, the people that tune in are the real ones that make this show possible. Fun to do, you know. Everybody tuning in on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Shout out to you. Love you so much. I will see you next week, 9 a.m. Pacific time, noon Eastern. Gonna be a lot of saying that, Roll Gang. Love you so much. We'll see you then for Motivational Monday, 9 a.m. Peace. Have a great weekend.